Welcome to Situational Awareness, a podcast brought to you by Militarnyi.com. I'm your host Valentina Kuzik, and today we are at Defense Tech Valley 2025 in Lviv. We'll talk to Pär Lager. He is a CEO and co-founder of Varangians. He wrote a book about Ukraine military time leadership, raising funds for Ukrainian startups, and gives some ideas on how you can attract the attention of your investors. Welcome to Situational Awareness, Pär.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being here at Defense Tech Valley 2025. How it's been so far for you?
It's just amazing. Very intense, but the atmosphere and the spirit is like fantastic.
Nowhere else.
Nowhere else. I think I just mentioned to the newly appointed CEO of Brave One that is this the event in the world that grows the fastest? Maybe it is.
Oh, maybe. Have you been to the first Brave One summit?
No, I was not able to join, but of course I followed it online and so forth, and that was really good. But look at this.
Yeah, the scale is different, yeah?
You know, this is pure deterrence to Russia. To have a conference like this with 50 countries, 5,000 people gathering here despite of the threat, working together, strengthening each other, that is pure deterrence.
Interesting, because I didn't plan this question for you, but since myself spending 10 years in international development, I'm not a big fan of conferences. Sometimes it is really hard, to understand whether there is any kind of outcome out of that. So it's interesting, since we are at Defense Tech Valley. So do you think, and there are lots of such conferences in Europe, like maybe not like this, but many. I mean, I've only joined 2 in May, just in Baltics. So that's an amount. And it's on in a context of rearming Europe. So do you think those conferences will actually help, or should we focus on production instead of talking?
I think people need to meet to build trust, cross borders, cross continents, and the conferences, physical conferences, still has a point there. To get that, first initial trust building, so you can start to focus on joint production and stuff like that. But also that needs to, if it's going to be good and valuable, then we as participants need to be responsible, meaning prepare. We just can't come here and mingle around, then it's nonsense.
Right.
Or just have a stand. We need to prepare, book meetings in advance. Who would I really like to meet to get things started? And then it's totally unique. Of course, if you're a professional, you can have as many meetings here during 2 days than during like 4 or 5 weeks in Kiev, Kharkiv, or Odessa. So it's very efficient also. Well, of course, I focus on meeting Ukrainians. But at the same time, of course, I meet a lot of other nations. Germany is many Germans here. Of course, United States, we need to talk to them even more. So, great place.
Great. So, and now back to the questions that we plan to talk about. You are a CEO and co-founder of a great initiative called Varangians. Can you tell us a little bit more about the initiatives for our international audience?
Дякую. So, I've been working with the lessons learned in Ukraine since the full scale on behalf of the Swedish Defense University and the Swedish Armed Forces to really understand what is happening in Ukraine. What do we need to learn from that? And I also have a friend, Andreas Flodström, that has been working here for 13 years, being the founder of Truth, and a great IT company with 300 plus people here in Ukraine. So we were a little bit worried when we met like 1.5, 2 years ago. Why is it so few Nordic investors in Ukraine supporting the great startup and scale-ups here? Why? Because in the Nordics, we have been really fast on of all the tech trends, like the fintech and proptech and marktech and everything. We have been really fast because we focus a lot on funding startups and scale-ups in order to build our economy. But when it comes to defense tech, there were very, very few. So we became ambassadors for spreading the word that why is there so little investors? We need to do something. And then it started to happen a little bit, way too little. But then a very great family office from a global brand met us and say, we would like to do this. But we don't know anything about Ukraine. We don't know anything about defense, but we want to support Ukraine and we would like to support the rearmament of Europe. So here you have money, please start an investment company
When
for us.
that happened?
Sorry?
Did it happen after Munich speech?
Of course, this family office has been following the situation like all family offices in the Nordics that are responsible with great concerns. So this was nothing new. But I think it's a hurdle for family offices and other investors to invest in defense. And of course to invest in new markets, so to say, like Ukraine. So it took a while. But when they have met us a couple of times, they have listened, then they come with a proposal that we couldn't say no to. Please start an investment company, and so we did. So we met in April, we started in June and made our first investment.
In April, what year? 2020?
This year.
This year.
So in April in 2025.
Right.
So we started the company in the 1st of June and made our first investment in the first week of August.
Great. And you mentioned that your goal publicly to invest 10 million euros by the end of this year. On what stage you are at
We
now?
like to use euros instead of dollars when we
Right,
talk about money, just to make a statement there. But yes, so now we have 2.5 million euros that we investing now. And then we are funding up the company now, as we speak, up to 10 million. And then when we have done that, hopefully it goes great. You never know.
Right.
But we have a lot of investors that are knocking on our door, like to invest. And then after that, we will start Varangians 2, Varangians 3, and Varangians 4. So there's no roof.
So you will spend 10 millions by the end of this year, right?
No, we will fund 10 million by the end of this year.
Right.
And then as we get the funding, we will invest.
Okay.
So we will not wait until we have all the funding in place and then start to invest. That's why we already have started to invest.
How many companies do you have now in your portfolio?
Only one. So we have one investment now that will be public in a couple of days. And then we are very close to signing the second one. And then third, fourth, hopefully will come very soon. But we want to move fast. But we also have a great responsibility to invest in the right companies.
Right?
Absolutely. So we would like really to run fast, but not too fast.
What's the most important thing when you're selecting the company?
That is battle-proofed. That's my competence to know what is the problem on the battlefield. And of course, we work very close to organizations such as Brave One, but also with the armed forces of Ukraine to really understand what is the problem on the battlefield. So that's our number one strategy, to rapidly support Ukraine now through investing in defense tech. So that's number one. So if they don't have a product or solution that can strengthen Ukraine's defense now, we don't invest. So that's the number one. If it also is relevant to the new Nordic and the rest of Europe, even better. But that's an add-on.
Great. You mentioned also about your partnership with Boryviter and the Come Back Alive Foundation. Like 6 months ago on your LinkedIn, I saw the post about your cooperation. Can you tell us a bit more on what stage you are now?
So both Boryviter and Come Back Alive, I have been cooperating with, and my partner Andreas for several years. So they became just natural partners also now when we start Varangians. With Boryviter, we learn a lot from their competence when it comes to train, for instance, drone pilots, and from Come Back Alive and their analysis department. That is just amazing people that follow everything that has happened out there on 110 plus brigades. So they are great partners. But of course, we work with more. We work very close to Brave One. That's a necessity here in Ukraine. Great team. Very, very unique.
Is there something they can do better than they do now? Because I only hear like great things about Brave One, but I do believe they have room to improve. Can you provide any recommendation right now?
No, but of course everybody can improve, and the needs in Ukraine now is endless. So of course they can have more funding. Of course they can move faster. Of course they can be even more, supported when international investors such as knock at the door all the time. But I must say, I can't be negative when it comes to that because they do such a great job. If I compare with similar organizations in the Nordics. They are way, way behind. So, of course, they can do much better, like everybody. But let's focus on the positive here. So they are very important. But then we, of course, work with other. So for my previous role, I have very good cooperation with the military academies. And they are so important when it comes to knowledge and, of course, military units. And then we have great initiatives such as the K4 at the MOD, working with AI startups, extra important, I would say. And not since we're in Lviv, we work very close to Iron Tech.
Right.
I see you're laughing. They are great guys.
Yeah. That's what I keep hearing as well. And I also visited that event in summer, and I was also anecdotally told that it was the best event, if not to take into account Brave, probably. I don't know.
It's another type of event. It's
another type, and it was very well organized.
Yes.
And
but they are young people.
Exactly.
Running
really
Iron
young.
Tech, so ambitious, so serious. I get faster response on Signal on a Sunday evening from our partners in Ukraine than I get during weekdays in Sweden or Norway, Finland, Denmark.
Why it's so? It's just because we are in the situation of urgency for our survival, or is it something else?
I think that is a very important reason, so of course. But I think it has more to your culture, that you are very fast. If you can do something now, why don't do it now instead of doing the same thing 1 week in the future?
I think Ukrainians are also great entrepreneurs,
And when you're very straight, also.
Maybe too straight sometimes.
Sometimes it doesn't work that well in the White House. No, but I really appreciate you being very clear and direct, and it makes it very easy to collaborate. And if you strive for the same goal, it is wonderful that you're honest to each other and you give each other feedback when it's not working or when it is working.
We always ask our international guests about civic preparedness because, of course, a lot of Ukrainians think that there would be World War III yet. And we don't know for sure, of course, and we hope it won't happen. However, daily news says that if not the larger war, there would be provocations, there would be something flying over the heads of the peaceful people in Europe. So how do you assess preparedness, especially civic preparedness in Sweden?
Well, we're a couple of countries in Europe. This used to be my speciality also, namely the concept of total defense. Or sometimes we call it comprehensive security,
right,
or whole of society approach. And two countries maybe stand out a little bit extra from historic reasons, and it's Finland and Sweden that has built a complete model of total defense, meaning how all the civil actors, both public and private, collaborate with the armed forces in order to protect your country. So during the Cold War, Sweden and Finland were among the most militarized countries because we have this concept of total defense. Shelters everywhere, everybody had a wartime placement, so if the war came, they knew exactly what kind of a responsibility they have. We stockpiled, water and food and petrol, medicine, ammunition, and stuff like that. We were prepared. And the more prepared you are, the more you deter their enemy. So that system, unfortunately, not Finland as much as Sweden. We cut down on that as a system. But from 2015, we start to build it up again. And we have an organizational memory of how it used to be.
Right.
So I think now when we are members of NATO, I think NATO look at Sweden and Finland as two new member states with great inspiration when it comes to our systems with total defense. And so is also Ukraine, which is interesting. I think you focus much on resilience, but I know that the thought leaders in Ukraine, when it comes to total defense, look very much on Finland and Sweden when it comes to how can we build a comprehensive security, civil, military, cross all lines in order to be even more resilience and maybe even deter.
Yeah, other European countries, I think, looking at you know, and doing the same. I also interviewed Jonas Åman, who is
Yes.
Swede.
Yes.
And he's great, I mean, helping also Lithuanians understand the threat, explaining, I mean, and fundraising for Ukraine, obviously. So thank you so much for both you and
But I must say
Jonas.
also that all European countries are way behind when it comes to total defense. Way behind.
And
Many
that's a
of them,
problem.
It is a problem.
Especially when we're talking about collective defense.
Yes, and that is Article 3 in the NATO. Everybody need to have a prepared society, both military and civilian. That's a prerequisite nowadays. It is for our own security, our own defense, and also to deter the enemy. Because Russia, they are good in analyzing this. If they see in a society that are weak, polarized, not well functioned, it's an easier target.
Exactly. And coming back to our first question, you mentioned that you do provide those workshops on the military lessons from Ukraine. Yeah. What are those lessons? Let's say key 3.
Okay, so just a short backdrop is that so when we have been working with lessons learned here in Ukraine for 1.5 years, we had a big need from both the armed forces and the civil defense in Sweden to please share your lessons learned from Ukraine. So our way of doing that, delivering on that demand, was to offer a course at the Defense University, where I'm also senior advisor and lecturer. So that we started 1.5 years ago. So it's a 3-week course on lessons learned Ukraine. So the first first week is about how do you work with lessons learned during a war? Why is it so important? And here, organizations such as Boryviter is great lecturers. And then we have one module of military lessons learned. And then we have the third module, civil defense lessons learned, coming together in total defense lessons learned. So just naming a few, because we can spend a whole episode only talking about lessons, is that from a civil defense point of view is that one challenge that we saw and that we really need to learn from is that the sense of urgency in Ukraine, the 22nd of February or 23rd of February 2022 was low. Very few did expect Russia to do the totally irrational thing to attack. And they say to me, don't do the same mistake as us. Take the threat for real and start to fortify and build preparedness. So that's one. The second thing from a total defense point of view is that Ukraine was not 100% ready from a civil military cooperation point of view. I think here Sweden is a little bit more now prepared, but that is a very important lesson. Prepare in peacetime to collaboration between the military and civil authority, build trust, build forums, build network, build a brave one before the war comes. So that is something that we have learned. Coming to the military, of course, state obvious, the unmanned systems are, of course, a massive lesson to us. Here, all countries in the world are way behind, as we all know, both underwater, on the water, on ground, and in air. So that is one thing. And then of course, the combination between the World War III type of methods with unmanned systems, with a transparent battlefield, working with command and control systems such as Delta, connected to satellites.
So like technical things, yeah?
Technical things mostly. In order to make it possible to command and control during battle. That on one hand, together with unmanned system. And then you have also, a World War I type of situation as well, with trenches that nobody thought was possible in Europe. So to learn from that combination is, of course, super valuable. And lastly but not least, the brutality from the enemy. I think we have been so naive to have
thinking it's not possible. Yeah,
nobody can do that in the year of 2022.
Right.
But we were proven wrong, unfortunately.
Right.
And that can never happen again.
Those are great lessons. Thank you very much. And the last question that I want to ask you about you, I found out when I was preparing to the interviews that you also have a podcast. We kind of are colleagues a little bit on that. So I probably can ask you as a professional communicator. We made this podcast as a thing to channel Ukrainian voices in English for international investors and companies that hesitating whether to work with Ukrainians and in Ukraine. What would you be advised to us on how to better channel our message to international audiences?
First, it's a great podcast, or I must say, I really love it. So thank you for your great work. I think it's the podcast. It's not for everybody. You know, some people like to learn from reading a book or reading a report or going to a conference or
Watching
going to a
TikTok.
workshop or go listening to a pod. And of course, it's a rising trend that people like to use podcasts. You can use it while driving the car and anything. So I think you're really spot on. But I think also you need to, like all podcasts, it's a big competition. People don't know about it. So I think that's because you have a fantastic product. I know there's a great need inside Ukraine and outside of Ukraine for this podcast. So let's figure out how can we spread the word in the most cost-efficient way so people discover the pod, because when they do, first you get a big crowd of listeners, but then you start also to get new ideas for guests and stuff like that. And maybe you go and record your pod in Paris with French experts.
We'll
and stuff
be
like
doing that.
As I was late on that. So just continue to do what you do. It's a great thing, but try to spread it, and it's very difficult. So team up with some good, talented marketing people.
I can also second you. Thank you for what you do for Ukraine, for all of us. Thank you for your great job, and thank you for being here today.
Разом до перемоги.
Разом до
Thank you.
перемоги.
Дякую.
До побачення.